The moment Juho saw his daughter's notebook torn in half, her favorite pencil case trampled on the floor while she rocked back and forth trying not to cry, he knew someone was about to pay for this. He'd been standing in the shadows of the private academy's hallway, waiting to surprise Sohi after her tutoring session, when those boys started their cruel game. Then a woman in a janitor's uniform, hair wrapped in a colorful scarf, dark skin glowing under the fluorescent lights, marched right up to those teenagers and shut the whole thing down with nothing but her words and presence. Grab your popcorn and juice, because what happens next between a dangerous man and a kind-hearted cleaner will surprise you. You won't believe how this whole thing unfolds. You boys got nothing better to do than pick on a kid half your size? The woman said, her Korean heavily accented but clear enough. She wasn't yelling exactly, but her voice carried weight. What's your problem, huh? You think you're tough. The tallest boy sneered. Mind your business, cleaning lady. This doesn't. Oh, it's my business now, she interrupted, stepping between them and Sohi. Because I gotta clean up whatever mess happens here, and I'm not spending my evening mopping up tears and picking up destroyed school supplies because you three got nothing better to do. Juho watched, fascinated. Most adults either ignored bullying or handled it so delicately the kids just came back worse later. This woman was different, direct, unafraid, treating the teenagers like they were toddlers throwing tantrums. You know what your parents pay for you to attend this fancy academy? She continued, bending down to pick up Sohi's things. Probably more than I make in 6 months, and you're using that opportunity to be cruel. Waste of money, honestly. One of the other boys muttered something rude in English, probably assuming she wouldn't understand. I speak 4 languages, genius, she shot back in perfect English, making the boy's face turn red. And in all of them, you're being a brat. Now apologize to this young lady and get out of here before I report you to the director. They hesitated, but something in her stance made them reconsider. Maybe it was the way she stood protectively in front of Sohi, or maybe they realized causing a scene with a staff member wasn't worth it. Either way, they mumbled half-hearted apologies and scattered. The woman turned to Sohi, her entire demeanor shifting from fierce to gentle in seconds. Hey there, sweetie, you okay? Sohi nodded, still rocking slightly, her hands flapping at her sides, something she did when overwhelmed. Most people found it strange, pulled away, or worse, told her to stop. This woman just smiled. That's a self-soothing technique, right? She said softly, kneeling to Sohi's level. My cousin's son does something similar. Helps him process big feelings. Sohi's eyes widened. You know about stimming? I know about lots of things, the woman replied, carefully gathering the torn notebook pages. I'm Henley, by the way. What's your name? Sohi, his daughter whispered. Beautiful name. Listen, Sohi, I work here every weekday evening 6 to 10. Those boys give you trouble again. You come find me, okay? I'll be around. Okay, Sohi said, and then she did something that made Juho's heart clench. She smiled. His daughter, who rarely smiled at strangers, who took months to warm up to people, was smiling at this woman she'd met 2 minutes ago. Henley handed her the gathered supplies. Your notebook's pretty damaged, but maybe you can tape it? Or I bet your mom or dad can get you a new one. Just my dad. Sohi corrected quietly. Mom's not. She's not around anymore. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Henley's expression softened further. Well, I bet your dad's pretty great then, taking care of you all by himself. Juho chose that moment to step out of the shadows, and he watched Henley's eyes widen slightly as she took him in, probably noting his tailored clothes, the way he carried himself, the barely concealed danger that clung to him like a second skin despite his best efforts to appear normal. Dad. So he ran to him, clutching her damaged supplies. These boys were mean, but Henley helped me. I saw, Juho said gently, smoothing his daughter's hair. Then he looked at Henley, who was standing now, clearly uncertain. Thank you. That was kind of you. Just doing what anyone should do, Henley replied, but she was watching him carefully. Smart woman. She sensed something off about him, probably. Not anyone, he said. Most people walk past, pretend they don't see. You didn't. There was a moment of silence, slightly awkward, until Sohi tugged his sleeve. Dad, can we get ice cream? Henley said sugar helps after stressful situations, right, Henley?
Henley laughed, surprised.
I said that helps me, kiddo. Not sure it's nutritionist-approved advice. Join us, Juho heard himself say, equally surprised. He never invited strangers into their lives, never risked exposure, but something about this woman made him want to bend his own rules. Please, let me buy you coffee or something. As a thank you. Henley hesitated, glancing at her cleaning cart. I'm working, and I really shouldn't. Please? So he added, and that sealed it. All right, but just for a bit, Henley conceded. Let me tell my supervisor I'm taking my break. 20 minutes later, they were seated in a small cafe 2 blocks away, Sohi happily working through a chocolate sundae, while Juho and Henley nursed coffee. The conversation flowed easier than it should have between 2 strangers from completely different worlds. So you speak 4 languages? Juho asked, genuinely curious. English, Korean, Yoruba, and French, Henley confirmed. Grew up in Benin, moved around a lot. Languages just stuck, I guess. How do you end up in Seoul? She stirred her coffee, considering her answer. Came here 5 years ago for a fresh start. Needed to be somewhere completely different from everything I knew. Korea was random, honestly, saw a documentary about it, bought a plane ticket, figured I'd stay for a year. She smiled. Still here. And you work as a janitor? He didn't mean it judgmentally, just curious. It pays the bills and keeps me humble, Henley said simply. Plus, I meet interesting people. Like chatty 10-year-olds and their mysterious dads who wear really nice watches to ice cream runs. Juho glanced at his Patek Philippe and almost laughed. Observant. I like nice things. Nothing wrong with that, but it makes me wonder what you do for a living that requires lurking in academy hallways at 7 p.m. I was surprising Sohi, he deflected smoothly. Her tutoring runs late on Tuesdays. Henley hummed, clearly not buying it but also not pushing. Well, you're a good dad for being involved. Lots of kids at that academy get dropped off by drivers and barely see their parents. So he's all I have, Juho said, the truth slipping out easier than it should. Her mother passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. It's been just us since then. Henley's expression shifted to understanding. That explains why you two are so close. She talks about you like you hung the moon. She does? Just now, while you were paying inside, she told me you help her with math homework even though you're terrible at fractions, and you always let her pick the music in the car even though you hate her favorite band. Henley grinned. Direct quote, by the way. Juho looked at his daughter, who was completely absorbed in arranging her remaining ice cream into a pattern. I'm not terrible at fractions. Just mediocre. Sure, Henley laughed, and the sound did something strange to his chest. They talked for another 30 minutes about Sohi's interests, Henley's adjustment to Korean culture, random things like favorite foods and pet peeves. It felt normal. Easy, like talking to an old friend instead of someone he'd just met. When Henley finally checked her phone and yelped about needing to get back to work, Juho found himself disappointed. Can we see you again? So he asked before Juho could. Maybe you can help me tape my notebook this weekend? Henley looked at Juho questioningly, and he nodded. We'd like that. If you're free. Saturday afternoon? Henley suggested. I work mornings, but I'm off by 2. They exchanged numbers, and as Henley headed back to the academy, Sohi turned to her father with a knowing look that seemed too old for her face. You like her? She seems nice, Juho said carefully. No, Dad, you like her. You did that thing with your voice. What thing? That soft thing you do when you actually care about what someone's saying instead of just pretending. So he went back to her ice cream. It's okay, you know. Mom would want you to be happy. Juho's throat tightened. His daughter, brilliant and perceptive and so much stronger than he gave her credit for. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Bug. We just met her. You're already planning Saturday in your head, though, so he observed. I can tell. She wasn't wrong. Saturday arrived with autumn sunshine and Juho's inexplicable nervousness. He'd faced down rival gang leaders, negotiated million-dollar deals, orchestrated complex operations that required nerves of steel, but the thought of spending an afternoon with Henley made his palms sweat like a teenager. "You changed your shirt 3 times," Sohi noted from the doorway of his bedroom. "This is serious." "I'm just trying to look presentable," Juho muttered, settling on a simple navy sweater and jeans. "You look nice, Dad." "Very not scary." He turned to her. "Do I usually look scary?" She tilted her head, considering. "To other people, probably yes.
To me, no.
But Henley doesn't know you yet, so maybe not scary is good." They picked Henley up at her apartment in Idiwan, a tiny place in an old building, but clean and cheerful with plants on the windowsill. She came down wearing jeans and a yellow blouse that made her skin seem to glow, her hair in natural curls instead of the usual scarf. "Wow, you look really pretty." So he blurted out, making Henley laugh. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty yourself." They spent the afternoon at a craft store, picking out supplies to repair Sohi's notebook and decorating it with stickers and washi tape. Henley was patient, creative, and made the whole process fun rather than just functional. She taught Sohi a technique she called Kintsugi style, highlighting the torn parts with gold tape instead of hiding them. In Japan, they repair broken pottery with gold, Henley explained. "Makes it more beautiful than it was before breaking. Your notebook's the same now. The damage is part of its story." Sohi loved that concept, and honestly, so did Juho. Afterwards, they went to a park where Sohi could run around while the adults talked on a bench. Juho found himself telling Henley things he never told anyone about Sohi's diagnosis, the struggles with schools and social situations, his constant worry that he wasn't enough for her. "You're doing great," Henley assured him. "She's happy, healthy, smart. You're giving her what matters." "How do you know about neurodiversity stuff?" he asked, genuinely curious. "My cousin's son, like I mentioned, plus I volunteered at a community center back in Benin that worked with kids on the spectrum. Learned a lot."
She paused.
"Also read everything I could, because I wanted to understand people better. The world's more interesting when you actually get why people do what they do." "That's refreshingly philosophical for a Saturday afternoon." She bumped his shoulder lightly. "I contain multitudes, mysterious watch guy." He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. As the sun started setting, painting the sky orange and pink, so he ran back to them, breathless and happy. "Can Henley come to dinner with us? Please." Juho expected Henley to politely decline, but she surprised him. "Only if I get to pick the restaurant. You two probably eat at fancy places all the time. I know this tiny Gambian spot in Idiwan that has the best jollof rice in Seoul." "Deal." Juho agreed immediately. The restaurant was indeed tiny, barely 6 tables, run by an elderly Gambian woman who greeted Henley like family. The food was incredible, spicy and rich, and completely different from anything Sohi usually ate, but she tried everything and declared she loved the plantains especially. "You're adventurous, kiddo," Henley praised. "Lots of people won't try new foods. Dad says trying new things is how we grow," so he repeated dutifully. "Smart dad." Juho felt that weird chest thing again, like something warm expanding behind his ribs. Dangerous territory. He couldn't afford to feel things for Henley. His life was too complicated, too dark, too risky. But watching her laugh with his daughter, seeing Sohi so genuinely happy, maybe just a little longer. Maybe he could have this, just for a while. After dinner, when he dropped Henley off at her apartment, she hesitated before getting out of the car. "Today was really lovely. Thank you for including me." "Thank you for coming," Juho replied. "So he had the best day." "Just Sohi?" Henley asked, her tone teasing. "No," he admitted quietly. "Not just Sohi." She smiled, and it transformed her whole face. "Good. Let's do it again sometime. This friend thing we're doing. I like it." "Friend thing."
"Right.
That's what this was." Juho nodded, not trusting his voice, and waited until she was safely inside before driving away. "You really like her," Sohi said from the back seat. "Yeah, bug." Juho sighed. "I really do." The problem with liking Henley, Juho discovered over the next few weeks, was that she was making it impossible not to fall completely for her. She started showing up at the academy twice a week to help Sohi with homework during her breaks, refusing payment every single time. She taught Sohi how to braid hair, introduced her to Afrobeat music, and somehow convinced his daughter that vegetables could actually taste good when you added the right spices. But more than that, she saw him, the real him, underneath the careful masks he wore for the rest of the world. "You're tense today," Henley observed one Wednesday evening when he picked up Sohi from tutoring. She was wiping down desks while his daughter gathered her things. "Rough day at work?" "Something like that," Joo-ho muttered. One of his warehouse managers had been skimming profits, and dealing with that situation had required the kind of intimidation Joo-ho hated but couldn't avoid. No violence, just very pointed threats and financial consequences, but it still left him feeling dirty. Henley studied him for a moment, then made a decision. "Sohi, honey, can you help me empty the recycling bins? They're too heavy for just me." Sohi, ever helpful, nodded and followed Henley's pointed finger toward the bins across the room, leaving them with a moment of relative privacy. "You gonna tell me what you really do?" Henley asked quietly. "Or do we keep playing this game where I pretend not to notice things?" Joo-ho's stomach dropped. "What do you think I do? Something that requires bodyguards parked outside whenever you're here, something that makes restaurant owners nervous when you walk in, something that puts that look in your eyes, like you've seen things that haunt you." She wasn't accusing, just stating facts. "I grew up around powerful men back home. I know the signs." He could lie, should lie. Instead, he chose partial truth. "I manage businesses that operate in gray areas. Import-export, real estate, entertainment venues. Nothing that touches Sohi's life directly. But yes, things that would make most people uncomfortable. Illegal things? Some of them, probably. Depends on who's defining legality." He met her eyes. "Does that change things between us?" Henley was quiet, actually thinking about it instead of just reacting. "Are you hurting people? Like, actively causing harm to innocents?"
No.
"I have rules, lines I won't cross. No drugs that destroy communities, no human trafficking, nothing involving kids, nothing that preys on the vulnerable." His voice was firm. "I'm not a good man, Henley, but I'm not that kind of bad. Everyone's some shade of gray," she said finally. "I'm not naive enough to think the world's black and white. But I need to know, is Sohi safe in your world? She's the only thing I protect more fiercely than my business interests. No one in my organization even knows she exists beyond vague knowledge that I have a daughter somewhere. Her school records list her grandmother as her guardian. I use different cars, different routes, different everything to keep her separated from my work life." Henley nodded slowly. "Okay then. I can work with that. You're not running away screaming? Please, I've dealt with worse than morally complicated businessmen," she said, but there was a hint of old pain in her voice. "Besides, Sohi needs me, and apparently so do you." "I don't. Joo-ho, you literally texted me at midnight last week asking what Sohi's favorite color was because you were stress shopping online and wanted to get her room decorations right." Henley's smile was gentle. "You need help, even if you're too proud to ask for it directly." He wanted to argue, but she was right. Since Sohi's mother died, he'd been doing this alone, terrified of letting anyone close enough to be leverage against him. But Henley was different somehow, or maybe he was just tired of being alone. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for not running, for staying, for her and, yeah, maybe for me too." "You're welcome, mystery man." She squeezed his arm briefly, and that simple touch sent electricity up his spine. "Now go take your daughter home and get some rest. You look exhausted." That night, lying in bed, Joo-ho admitted to himself what he'd been avoiding for weeks. He was falling in love with Henley. Not just attraction, not just gratitude for her kindness to Sohi, actual, terrifying, all-consuming love. And he had absolutely no idea what to do about it. 2 weeks later, disaster struck in the form of his mother. Joo-ho's mother, Young-hwa, was a formidable woman who'd built half of his current empire before retiring and handing things over to him. She was brilliant, ruthless, and had opinions about everything, especially about who is suitable to be in their family's orbit. She showed up unannounced at his penthouse on a Sunday morning, bypassing all his security like she owned the place, which, technically, she kind of did since she'd bought the building as an investment property. "We need to talk about this woman you've been seeing," Yoonghwa announced, settling onto his couch like a queen on a throne. Joo-ho froze mid-coffee pour. "How did you? I have eyes everywhere, dear. Did you really think you could parade around Seoul with some foreign woman and I wouldn't notice?" She sniffed disapprovingly. "A janitor, Joo-ho? Really? Henley is more than her job title," he said defensively. "She's kind, intelligent, wonderful with Sohi. She's a nobody from nowhere with no connections, no family here, nothing to offer." Yoonghwa's tone was ice. "You're a prominent businessman, whether you acknowledge it publicly or not. You need someone from our world, someone who understands how things work." "Like Sohi's mother?" Joo-ho shot back, knowing it was cruel, but too angry to care. "That arranged marriage you pushed me into? That worked out so well." His mother flinched slightly, but recovered quickly. "Ji-yeon was suitable. It's not my fault she got sick." "Don't." Joo-ho's voice dropped to dangerous levels. "Don't you dare speak about her like she was just a transaction that didn't pan out." They stared at each other, years of complicated history crackling between them. Finally, Yoonghwa sighed. "I'm not trying to control your life, son. I'm trying to protect it. This woman, she's a vulnerability. People will use her against you. Only if they know about her, which they won't because I'm careful." "Are you?" "Because my sources tell me you've been spotted together at least a dozen times in public." Yoonghwa pulled out her phone, showing him photos that made his blood run cold. Him and Henley at the park, at restaurants, walking with Sohi. "If I know, others will figure it out eventually." Joo-ho's mind raced. His mother was right, damn her. He'd been careless, so caught up in the happiness of being with Henley that he'd forgotten his own security protocols. "What do you want me to do?" he asked tiredly. "End it. Cleanly, quickly, before it becomes a problem."
No.
Yoonghwa's eyebrows rose. "No. I'm not ending things with Henley, but I will be more careful. No more public outings, different arrangements, better security." He met his mother's eyes. "I'm not losing her because you're paranoid." "I'm not paranoid, I'm experienced." His mother stood, preparing to leave. "But fine. Do this your way. Just remember, when it all falls apart, I warned you." After she left, Joo-ho sat in the growing darkness of his living room, wondering if his mother was right. Was he being selfish, pursuing something with Henley when his world was so dangerous? Was he putting her at risk just by caring about her? His phone buzzed with a text from Henley. "So he wants to know if we can all go to the aquarium next weekend." Girls obsessed with seahorses suddenly. "You free?" He stared at the message, at the casual affection in it, the way Henley had seamlessly integrated herself into their lives. Making this work wouldn't be easy, maybe impossible, but the alternative, going back to the loneliness, the isolation, felt worse than any external threat. He typed back, "We're free, but I need to talk to you about some things. Security things." Ominous, but okay. "Coffee tomorrow?"
Yeah.
"Tomorrow." The conversation the next day was harder than he expected. They met at Henley's favorite small cafe, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood where tourists never went. Joo-ho explained about his mother, the photos, the reality of being involved with someone like him. "So, basically, we have to sneak around like teenagers?" Henley summarized, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "For your safety, yes. I know it's not ideal." "It's not," she interrupted, "but I get it. My ex-boyfriend back in Benin was involved with some sketchy people. I learned real quick that staying off radar was important."
She paused.
"Is that why you're telling me this? To scare me away?" "And oh," Joo-ho said urgently, "I'm telling you because I care about you, and I need you to understand what you're getting into. If you want out, I'll understand completely, but I'm not pushing you away. I'm asking you to be careful with me." Henley reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. The gesture was simple but profound, the first truly romantic touch they'd shared. "I'm not scared of your world, Joo-ho. I'm from a place where power and danger, were everyday things. What scares me is the idea of losing what we have because we're too afraid to fight for it. So you're staying? I'm staying, she confirmed. But we do this smart. Private places, careful timing. Maybe I should stop hanging around the academy so obviously. They spent the next hour planning how to navigate their relationship without drawing attention. It felt ridiculous and thrilling at the same time, like they were spies coordinating a mission instead of two people just trying to date. This is the weirdest courtship ever. Henley laughed as they walked to her apartment later. Most guys just worry about impressing the girl. You're over here planning counter-surveillance strategies. I'm a complicated man. You're a disaster, she corrected fondly. But you're my disaster now, so I guess I'm committed. At her door, Joo-ho hesitated. I know we're taking things slow, being careful, but can I ask you something? Anything. Are we actually dating? Like, officially? Or are we still in this weird friend zone thing? Henley laughed, the sound bright in the evening air. Joo-ho, I've been emotionally invested in you since that first ice cream outing. I thought we were already dating, honestly.
Oh,
Good. That's really good. He felt like an idiot, grinning like a teenager. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. We are, she assured him. Now kiss me goodnight like a proper boyfriend, would you? All this danger and intrigue deserves some romance. He did, gentle and sweet, her lips tasting like coffee and promises. It wasn't steamy or demanding, just perfect, a first kiss that felt like coming home after a long journey. When they pulled apart, Henley was smiling. Yeah, definitely worth all the complicated stuff. Definitely. Joo-ho agreed, already counting the hours until he'd see her again. 3 months into their relationship, and Joo-ho had never been happier or more terrified. Henley had become essential to his life, woven into every part of his day. She video called Sohi every evening to help with homework, sent him random texts during the day just to check in, and somehow made his too-empty penthouse feel like a home when she visited. But keeping their relationship secret was wearing on both of them. I hate this, Henley admitted one evening, curled up on his couch after Sohi had gone to bed. Not us, never us, but the hiding. I want to hold your hand in public, meet your friends, be part of your life openly. I know, Joo-ho said, wrapping his arms around her. I hate it too. Your mom still doesn't approve? She's coming around maybe. Slowly. That wasn't entirely true, but Yoonghwa had stopped actively opposing the relationship, which was progress. She had dinner with us last week, remember? Didn't even make any disapproving comments. She made 3 disapproving comments, Henley corrected. She just did it in Korean, so I wouldn't understand. You're learning Korean faster than I expected. I'm motivated, she said, poking his side. Can't let your mother talk trash about me without knowing it. They fell into comfortable silence, one of Joo-ho's favorite things about being with Henley. She didn't need to fill every moment with chatter. She was content to just be. His phone rang, shattering the peace. The number was unfamiliar, but the timing, close to midnight, made his instincts scream danger. I need to take this, he said apologetically, moving to his office. Joo-ho SSI. The voice was unfamiliar, smooth and vaguely threatening. We haven't met, but I've heard much about you. Who is this? Someone who knows about your little African girlfriend. Pretty thing, isn't she? Works at that academy in Gangnam, lives in that rundown building in Idiwan. Joo-ho's blood turned to ice. If you touch her. Relax, I'm not calling to threaten. I'm calling to make a deal. The voice chuckled. You have something I want, certain shipping routes you control. I'll trade you information for access. What information? About who's been watching you and your family. About the little surveillance operation running against you. About the people planning to use your weakness against you.
a pause.
Interested. Every instinct screamed trap, but Joo-ho couldn't ignore the possibility. I'm listening. They arranged a meeting, neutral territory, public place, daylight hours. Joo-ho spent the rest of the night planning contingencies and backup plans, barely sleeping. In the morning, Henley found him in his office, surrounded by papers and looking exhausted. You've been here all night. Someone knows about us, he said bluntly. Someone dangerous. Her face paled. How dangerous? Potentially very. I'm meeting them today to get more information. But Henley, I need you to be extra careful. Vary your routes, stay aware of your surroundings, and take this. He handed her a small device. Panic button. Press it, and my team will be there in under 2 minutes. She stared at the device like it was a snake. This is really happening. This is your world.
Yes.
And I understand if it's too much if you want to step back. Stop offering me exits, Henley interrupted, frustrated. I'm a grown woman. I chose this, chose you, knowing what came with it. I'm not running at the first sign of trouble. It could get worse than trouble. It could get deadly. Then we make sure it doesn't. She cupped his face in her hands. You're not alone anymore, Ju-ho. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. Protect me by including me, by letting me help. He wanted to argue, but she was right. Treating her like fragile glass would only make things worse. Okay, but you follow security protocols, no arguments.
Deal.
She kissed him quickly. Now go take a shower and change. You smell like stress and coffee, and nobody makes good deals when they're that wrecked. The meeting happened at a busy coffee shop in Myeongdong, surrounded by tourists and shoppers. The man who sat across from Ju-ho was younger than expected, maybe early 30s, wearing designer clothes and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sung-hyun. He introduced himself. I appreciate you coming. Get to the point, Ju-ho said flatly.
Direct.
I like that. Sung-hyun slid a folder across the table. Inside, you'll find photos, surveillance logs, and names. Someone's been building a case against you, not police, not prosecutors. Rival organization trying to find leverage. Ju-ho flipped through the folder, his stomach sinking with each page. Photos of him and Henley, of Sohi, of his mother. Detailed schedules, habits, patterns. Whoever was behind this had been watching for months. Who? Does it matter? The point is, they know about Henley, and they're planning to use her. Kidnapping, probably force you to make concessions or hand over territory. Sung-hyun leaned back casually. Unless we make our deal first. And if I refuse your deal, then I sell this same information to them, and your girlfriend becomes a pawn in a game she doesn't even know she's playing. Sung-hyun's smile widened. But you're smart. You won't refuse. Ju-ho wanted to flip the table, wanted to make this smug bastard swallow his teeth, but violence here would only create problems. The shipping routes for how long? 6 months. Shared access, not exclusive. You still profit, just not as much. It was robbery, plain and simple, but what choice did he have? I need time to think. You have 24 hours, Sung-hyun said, standing. After that, my offer goes to the highest bidder. Ju-ho took the folder and left, his mind already racing through options. He could refuse, beef up security, maybe even go on the offensive against whoever was targeting him, but that risked escalation, risked Henley getting caught in crossfire. Or he could make the deal, lose some profits but keep her safe. Back at his penthouse, he found Henley and Sohi baking cookies, flour everywhere, both of them laughing. The sight stopped him in his tracks. This was what he was fighting for. This happiness, this normalcy, this life beyond his empire. Dad, look. Henley taught me how to make chocolate chip cookies from scratch. Sohi held up a misshapen cookie proudly. Looks delicious, Bug, he said, hugging her tight. Henley caught his expression, reading him too easily. Sohi, honey, why don't you go pick out a movie for us to watch? Something animated, your choice. Once his daughter was gone, Henley turned to him. That bad. He showed her the folder, watched her face cycle through shock, fear, and finally, determination. So, what do we do? She asked calmly. I make the deal, give up some business interests, keep you safe. Absolutely not. He blinked, surprised. Henley, this isn't negotiable. Yes, it is. You don't get to sacrifice your business, your empire, your everything because someone's threatening me. She crossed her arms. That's not protecting me. That's letting them win. I don't care about winning if losing means you're hurt. And I don't care about your shipping routes if fighting back means you lose everything you've built. She moved closer, urgent. There has to be another way. A smarter way. Juho ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. Like what? I can't exactly go to the police about this. No, but you have resources, connections, people who owe you favors, right? Henley's eyes were bright with thought. What if instead of giving in, we figure out who's really behind this and deal with them directly? Cut off the head instead of paying off the middleman. It was risky, potentially dangerous, but not impossible. Juho had spent years building a network precisely for situations like this. Maybe it was time to use it. You're brilliant, he said, kissing her forehead. I'm practical, she corrected. Now make some calls and start investigating. I'll keep Sohi distracted. Over the next week, Juho pulled every string he had. His tech expert traced Sunghyun's communications. His informants asked questions in the right circles. His financial guy analyzed money trails. Slowly, a picture emerged. Sunghyun wasn't working for a rival organization. He was freelancing, trying to create a bidding war between Juho and others, playing multiple sides against each other. More importantly, the surveillance operation wasn't as comprehensive as Sunghyun claimed. Yes, they had photos and some information, but nothing concrete enough to actually move against Henley or Sohi successfully. It was a bluff, mostly. An elaborate, dangerous bluff designed to spook Juho into making a panic decision. Armed with this knowledge, Juho called Sunghyun for a second meeting. This time, it was in Juho's territory, a private room in a restaurant he owned, surrounded by his people. I'm impressed you wanted to meet again, Sunghyun said, settling into his chair with that same infuriating confidence. Does this mean we have a deal? This means you played a good game, but you overplayed your hand, Juho replied calmly. Your surveillance is surface level at best. Your supposed client doesn't actually exist, and you've been trying to auction off the same information to at least 3 different people, hoping someone bites before they realize it's worthless. Sunghyun's smile faltered. Here's what's going to happen, Juho continued. You're going to destroy every file, every photo, every piece of information you have about me and my family. Then you're going to leave Seoul, maybe leave Korea entirely, and you're never going to speak my name again. And if I refuse? Then I make some calls, and you discover exactly how unpleasant my world can be when I stop being polite. Juho leaned forward. I don't like threats, Sunghyun. I prefer solutions. Your solution is to disappear. Quietly, permanently, with the money you've already made from your other marks. The younger man was sweating now, realizing he'd miscalculated badly. You'd let me go? Just like that. I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman who values efficiency. Killing you or ruining you would be loud, messy, and unnecessary. Scaring you into compliance is cleaner. Juho slid an envelope across the table. Inside is a plane ticket to Singapore and enough cash to start over somewhere else. Take it and we're done. Sunghyun stared at the envelope for a long moment before taking it. You're different than they say. They say a lot of things. Most of them are wrong. Juho stood. You have 12 hours before that ticket expires. I suggest you use them wisely. After Sunghyun left, Juho allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Henley's suggestion had worked. Not violence, not capitulation, just smart maneuvering. He called her immediately. It's done. He's leaving. Told you there was a smarter way, Henley said, relief obvious in her voice. See what happens when you actually let me help instead of trying to be a lone wolf. I'm learning, he admitted. Slowly, but I'm learning. Good, because I have more ideas about improving your security without making everyone's lives miserable. We need to talk protocols over dinner. Is this your way of asking me on a date? This is my way of telling you we're a team now, so start treating me like an equal partner instead of a damsel in distress, she said, but her tone was warm. The date part is just a bonus. Juho smiled, feeling lighter than he had in weeks.
Deal.
My place, 8 o'clock. I'll bring wine and my notebook. This is going to be a working dinner. I can't wait. Life settled into a new rhythm after the Sunghyun incident. Henley formally moved in with Juho and Sohi 3 months later. transforming his sterile penthouse into an actual home with colorful artwork, plants, and the smell of cooking experiments from different African countries. Sohi thrived with Henley's presence, becoming more confident and social. She even made a friend at school, another girl on the spectrum who loved mathematics as much as Sohi did. "I never thought I'd see her this happy," Juho admitted to Henley one evening, watching Sohi video chat with her new friend about some math competition they were entering together. "She's amazing," Henley said simply. "She just needed space to be herself without judgment. You gave her that. You gave both of us that." Henley turned to him, serious. "You know what I haven't given you? The truth about why I really came to Korea." Juho felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "Remember when I said I came here for a fresh start? That was true, but not complete. I was running, Juho, from a man in Benin who, he was powerful, connected, dangerous. We were engaged, and I found out he was involved in some really terrible things. When I tried to leave, he threatened my family." "Henley, let me finish," she interrupted gently. "I managed to escape with help from a friend who worked at the embassy. Changed my name slightly, altered my documents, disappeared. I've been looking over my shoulder for 5 years, waiting for him to find me." Juho processed this, understanding flooding through him. "That's why you weren't scared of my world. You'd already survived worse. Much worse. What you do, gray market business, intimidation, financial maneuvering, that's tame compared to what Aluwa was involved in. Human trafficking, political assassinations, terror campaigns." She shuddered. "He was a monster disguised as a philanthropist. Does he know you're here?" "I don't think so. I've been careful, and Korea's not a place he'd usually look. But recently..." She pulled out her phone, showing him emails. "I've been getting these messages that mention details only Aluwa would know. Nothing directly threatening, just reminders that I exist, that I can be found." The emails were subtle but chilling, references to her childhood home, her sister's name, specific memories from her time in Benin. Someone was definitely watching. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Juho asked, her warring with concern. "Because I was scared you'd either push me away to protect yourself and Sohi, or you'd do something reckless to protect me. Both options terrified me." Henley's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I love you, Juho. I love Sohi. I didn't want my past to destroy our future." "It won't," he said firmly, pulling her close. "We handle this together, remember? That's what partners do." "You're not mad." "I'm mad you suffered alone instead of trusting me, but I understand why. And now we fix it." His mind was already working through options. "I have international contacts, people who can investigate quietly. We figure out who's sending these messages and why, then we deal with it. What if it really is Aluwa? What if he's coming for me? Then he learns that you're not alone anymore. You have me, you have my resources, and I protect what's mine." Juho tilted her face up. "He doesn't get to hurt you. Not now, not ever." Henley kissed him, desperate and grateful, and Juho made a silent promise to keep her safe no matter what it took. The investigation took 2 weeks and revealed something unexpected. The emails weren't from Aluwa. They were from Henley's sister, Ira, who'd been trying to contact her for months using coded language that wouldn't alert Aluwa if he somehow intercepted the messages. "She wants to see me," Henley said, staring at the decoded email on Juho's laptop. "Says it's urgent, that she has information I need to know." "Could be a trap," Juho warned. "Could be, but Ira wouldn't do that. We were close, even with everything." Henley looked up at him. "I have to meet her. I have to know what's going on back home." They arranged the meeting carefully, neutral country, secured location, multiple backup plans. Ira flew to Tokyo, and Juho insisted on coming with Henley despite her protests. "I'm not letting you walk into potential danger alone," he said firmly. "Either we both go or nobody goes." The reunion at the Tokyo hotel was emotional. Ira was older than Henley by 3 years, with the same warm smile but sadder eyes. The sisters hugged for a long time, crying and speaking rapid Yoruba that Juho couldn't follow. Eventually, they settled into chairs, and Ira explained. Alia was dead, Henley. He was killed 6 months ago in a business dispute that went bad. That's why I've been trying to reach you. You're free. You can come home if you want. Henley looked stunned. Dead? Are you sure?
Very sure.
I saw the body myself at the funeral. Ira squeezed her sister's hand. It's over. You're safe now. Relief and disbelief warred on Henley's face. Juho watched her process this, ready to support whatever she needed. I can't believe it, Henley whispered. I've been running for so long. You don't have to run anymore, Ira said.
Come home.
Mama misses you terribly, and Aunt Folake asks about you every week. The family wants you back. Henley glanced at Juho, conflict clear in her eyes. I have a life in Seoul now. People I love there. Ira followed her gaze, understanding dawning. This is him? The man you mentioned briefly in your last email? Juho, this is my sister Ira. Ira, this is my boyfriend Juho. They shook hands politely, each assessing the other. Juho could see the protectiveness in Ira's posture, the way she was evaluating whether he was good enough for her sister. You make her happy? Ira asked directly. I try to, Juho replied honestly. Every day. And she's safe with you? Because Henley deserves safety after everything she's been through. She is my protection and my love, he said simply. Both completely. Ira studied him for another moment, then nodded.
Good.
Henley's always been too independent for her own good, but maybe that's what she needed, someone who respects her strength instead of trying to control it. They spent the rest of the day catching up, sharing stories, bridging the 5-year gap. Juho mostly listened, watching Henley reconnect with her family, seeing a side of her he'd never witnessed. The youngest sister, the playful one, the woman she'd been before fear made her hide. That evening, back in their hotel room, Henley was quiet. What are you thinking? Juho asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About choices, she said softly. About the fact that I could go home now if I wanted. See my family, my country, everything I left behind. His chest tightened. Do you want to? Part of me does. I miss my family, my culture, the food, the language, everything. She turned in his arms. But I'd miss you, and Sohi more.
You're my home now, Juho.
Seoul is my home. You could have both, he suggested, even though the thought of losing her terrified him. Visit Benin, stay connected to your family. I'd never ask you to choose between us. I know you wouldn't. That's part of why I love you. Henley kissed him gently. But I'm not leaving Seoul, not permanently. Maybe visits, maybe bringing my family to visit us, but my life is with you now. Relief flooded through him. Are you sure? Completely sure. You and Sohi are my family too. I'm not walking away from that. They held each other in the Tokyo hotel room, two people who'd found home in each other despite impossible circumstances. 2 months later, Juho planned the surprise he'd been plotting since Tokyo. He convinced Henley to take a week off from her part-time teaching job. She'd left the janitor position to work at a language school, teaching English and French to Korean students, claiming they were just taking a family vacation. So he was in on the plan, bouncing with excitement she could barely contain. Where are we going? Henley asked as they drove to the airport. You've been annoyingly secretive about this trip. You'll see, was all Juho would say, smiling at Sohi's giggles in the back seat. At the airport, Henley saw their destination on the departure board and gasped. Benin? We're going to Benin? Your family's expecting us, Juho confirmed. Ira helped me coordinate everything. She says your mother's been cooking for 3 days straight in preparation. Henley burst into tears right there in the airport, and Juho panicked. If you don't want to go, we don't have to. These are happy tears, you ridiculous man, she said, laughing and crying simultaneously. I can't believe you did this. You said you missed home, so I'm bringing you home. For a visit at least. So he hugged Henley's leg. We're going to meet your family. I've been practicing Yoruba phrases with an app. Bawo and I? That means, how are you? Right? Perfect pronunciation, sweetheart. Henley managed, hugging the girl tightly. The week in Benin was chaos in the best way. Henley's family was enormous. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors who might as well be family. They welcomed Juho and Sohi with overwhelming warmth, despite the language barriers and cultural differences. Henley's mother, a formidable woman named Chinyu, made it her mission to feed Juho until he could barely move. "You're too thin," she declared through Ira's translation. No wonder Henley left Korea. Nobody's cooking proper food for her. "Mama, Seoul has great food," Henley protested, laughing. "Not like mine," Chinyu said firmly, adding another serving to Juho's plate. So he was enchanted by everything. The colors, the music, the food, the way Henley's family expressed emotions so openly. She spent hours with Henley's young cousins, playing games that transcended language. "She's thriving," Henley observed, watching Sohi dance with the other children at a family gathering. "She is," Juho agreed. "Different environment, but she's adapting beautifully." "Kids are resilient when they feel loved and safe," Henley said. "You gave her that foundation. Everything else just builds on it." On their last evening in Benin, Juho asked Chinyu for a private conversation through Ira's translation. The older woman studied him carefully before nodding. They sat in her small garden, and Juho spoke while Ira translated. "I love your daughter very much. She's changed my life and my daughter's life in ways I can't fully express. I know I come from a different world, a different culture, a complicated life, but I promise you I will always take care of her." Chinyu listened, her expression unreadable, then responded in Yoruba. Ira translated. "Mama says she knows you love Henley because you look at her the way Papa used to look at Mama before he passed. Like she's the center of your world. She says you have her blessing, whatever that means for your future together." Relief washed over Juho. "Thank you. That means everything." Chinyu said something else, and Ira laughed before translating. "She says just don't wait too long to make an honest woman of her daughter. Mama's getting old and wants to see at least one more wedding before she dies." Juho smiled. "I'll keep that in mind." That night, lying in the guest room of Henley's family home, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a Beninese evening, Juho made a decision. He was going to marry Henley. Not someday, not eventually, soon. She deserved that commitment, that declaration, that promise of forever. He just needed to figure out how to propose in a way that honored both their worlds. Planning a proposal turned out to be harder than running a criminal empire. Juho wanted it perfect, meaningful to both of them, inclusive of their blended cultures, special enough to match how extraordinary Henley was. He enlisted Sohi and Ira as co-conspirators, which probably explained why the plan grew increasingly elaborate. "We should have dancers," Sohi suggested enthusiastically during one of their secret video planning calls with Ira. "Like at the family party in Benin." "Maybe not dancers, Bug," Juho said diplomatically. "Henley might find that overwhelming." "Traditional Korean music and West African drums," Ira proposed. "Blending your cultures." "She'd see through that immediately," Juho pointed out. "Henley's not stupid. The moment musicians show up, she'll know something's happening." "Good point," Ira conceded. "What about the Han River? She loves walking there." "Too public, too many variables." Juho had spent years minimizing public exposure. Hard habits to break. "Somewhere private but meaningful." "The academy where you first met," so he exclaimed. "Where she helped me with my books." Both adults paused, considering. It was actually perfect, private after hours, deeply significant to their relationship, and Juho owned enough influence in the building to arrange access. "That's brilliant, Sohi," Ira said warmly. "Your dad's raising a genius." "She gets it from her mother," Juho said automatically, the old grief a dull ache rather than sharp pain these days. Henley had helped with that too, not by replacing Jian, but by showing him it was possible to love again without dishonoring the past. They finalized the details over the next 2 weeks. Juho commissioned a custom ring, a simple band with Korean and Beninese design elements intertwined, the inside engraved with "Our Forever" in English, Korean, and Yoruba. The day arrived with Juho's nerves absolutely shot. He'd faced down rival bosses, negotiated million-dollar deals, made life-or-death decisions, but asking Henley to marry him felt more terrifying than all of that combined. "You look like you're going to throw up," so he observed helpfully as they waited in the academy's lobby. "Thanks, Bug. Very supportive. I'm just saying, maybe breathe? Henley loves you." "She's going to say yes."
You don't know that.
"Dad, she literally reorganizes your sock drawer by color when she's stressed because she wants to take care of you in small ways. She's not going anywhere." How did his 10-year-old daughter become the wise one in their relationship? Henley arrived exactly on time, confused by the cryptic text asking her to meet them at the academy after hours. "What's going on? Is Sohi okay?" "I'm perfect," Sohi announced, grabbing Henley's hand. "Come on, we have something to show you." They led her to the exact spot where she'd first intervened with the bullies, where this entire journey had started. Juho had decorated minimally, just fairy lights and candles, creating a warm glow without being overwhelming. "Juho, what?" Henley started, then stopped as she recognized the location. "This is where we met. Where you saved my daughter from humiliation and accidentally saved me too," Juho confirmed, taking her hands. "That day changed everything, Henley. You changed everything." "Oh no, you're doing a speech," Henley said, but she was smiling, her eyes already glistening. "I'm doing a speech," he agreed. "Because you deserve to hear exactly how much you mean to me, to us." So he stepped back, giving them space, but staying close enough to witness. "Before you, I was surviving, not living," Juho continued. "I was a father and a businessman and nothing else, convinced that was enough. Then you walked into our lives with your kindness and your strength and your terrible cooking experiments." "My cooking has improved," Henley protested through tears and laughter. "It has, but that first attempt at Kintsugi was memorable for all the wrong reasons." Juho squeezed her hands. "You made me remember that life could be more than just protecting what I have. You showed me it could be about building something new, something beautiful, something ours." "Juho, I'm not finished," he interrupted gently. "You took my broken family and helped us heal. You loved Sohi without hesitation, understood her in ways most people never try to. You challenged me to be better, to think differently, to trust again. You brought color and music and joy into a life that had forgotten those things existed." He knelt down, and Henley made a small sound of surprise. "I know I come with complications. My work, my past, my family dynamics, the security concerns, all of it. I know loving me isn't easy." Juho pulled out the ring box. "But I promise you, Henley, I will spend every single day of forever making sure you never regret choosing us. Will you marry me?" Henley was full-on crying now, nodding before she could even speak. "Yes, you ridiculous, wonderful, complicated man. Yes." Juho slipped the ring onto her finger, and she immediately pulled him up to hug him fiercely. So he joined the hug, and they stood there in the glow of fairy lights, three people who'd found family in unexpected places. "The ring is beautiful," Henley said when she finally pulled back to examine it. "These patterns. Korean and Beninese traditional designs, woven together. Like us." "You're going to make me cry more," she warned, but she was beaming. "When did you become such a romantic?" "Since I fell in love with a woman who deserves romance." "Gross," so he announced cheerfully. "But also really sweet. Can we get celebratory ice cream now?" They laughed, and Juho realized he'd never felt more complete. Planning a wedding that honored both cultures while managing Juho's security concerns proved interesting. Henley wanted her family involved. Juho needed to keep his professional life separate, and so he had opinions about everything from flowers to music. "Why can't we have both ceremonies?" Henley suggested one evening, surrounded by wedding magazines and color swatches. Traditional Korean and traditional Beninese, two separate events celebrating both our heritages? Juho considered it. "That's actually perfect. Small Korean ceremony here with my family and close associates, then a larger celebration in Benin with your family. And I can wear both types of traditional dress." So he added excitedly. I've been researching Korean hanbok and Beninese attire online. Can I help design mine? Of course, sweetheart. Henley agreed, hugging her future stepdaughter. The Korean ceremony happened first, held at a private venue with tight security. Yoonghwa attended, still not entirely approving but making an effort for her son's happiness. She'd actually grown to respect Henley over the months, especially after Henley stood up to her about some business decision and proved she understood strategy better than Yoonghwa expected. You're good for him, Yoonghwa admitted to Henley before the ceremony, speaking in careful English.
I was wrong about you.
You make my son remember how to be human, not just a boss. Thank you, Yomioni, Henley replied, using the Korean term for mother-in-law. That means everything coming from you. The ceremony was beautiful, traditional Korean customs blended with small personal touches. Sohi served as flower girl, beaming with pride. Juho's closest associates attended, witnessing their boss show vulnerability and joy in equal measure. When Juho and Henley bowed to each other and to their families, completing the traditional rituals, Juho felt the weight of commitment settle over him like a blessing. You're stuck with me now, Henley whispered as they walked out as husband and wife. Exactly where I want to be, he whispered back. 3 weeks later, they held the second ceremony in Benin. This one was huge, Henley's extended family plus half the neighborhood, with traditional music, dancing, food, and celebration that lasted 2 days. Juho wore traditional Beninese formal attire, and Henley wore a stunning outfit in rich fabrics with intricate beading. Sohi was in her element, dancing with Henley's cousins and trying every food available. Your husband moves pretty well for a Korean businessman, Ira teased Henley during the dancing portion of the celebration. He's been secretly taking lessons, Henley replied, watching Juho attempt traditional dance moves with enthusiastic if imperfect execution. Wanted to surprise me. He's a good man, your Juho. Different from anyone I expected you to end up with, but good. The best, Henley agreed, her heart full. When the celebration finally wound down late into the night, Juho and Henley stood under the stars in Chinyu's garden. We did it, Henley said softly. Married in both worlds, both families blessing us. We did, Juho agreed, wrapping his arms around her. No more running, no more hiding, just us building our future together. Our future, she repeated, liking the sound of it. Think we can handle whatever comes next. With you and Sohi, I can handle anything. They stood there in the warm Beninese night, two people from different worlds who'd found their way to each other through kindness, courage, and the simple act of choosing love over fear. Married life suited them. Henley officially adopted Sohi 6 months after the wedding, and the girl had 2 mothers' names on her documents now, her birth mother Ji-yeon and her adoptive mother Henley. They framed the adoption papers and hung them in Sohi's room alongside family photos from both Korea and Benin. I'm the most international kid in my class, Sohi announced proudly. Korean dad, Beninese mom, and I can swear in 4 languages. You can what? Juho asked sharply. I'm kidding, Dad. Mostly. Sohi grinned. Henley only taught me the polite words. Define polite, Henley said suspiciously. Life wasn't perfect. Juho still dealt with business complications, still had to navigate the dangerous aspects of his work. But he'd reorganized things, pulled back from the most questionable operations, started transitioning toward more legitimate ventures. It was a slow process, maybe years long, but Henley and Sohi deserved a future without constantly looking over their shoulders. Then Yoonghwa got sick. It started as fatigue, then escalated to tests, doctors, and finally a diagnosis that made Juho's blood run cold. Advanced liver disease, likely terminal, without a transplant. I'm on the waiting list, Yoonghwa said matter-of-factly during the family meeting where she delivered the news. But at my age, with my health history, the chances aren't great. Then we'll find a donor, Juho said firmly. I'll pay whatever it takes, go wherever necessary. It doesn't work like that, son. Money can't fix everything. His mother smiled sadly. I've had a good life. Built an empire. Raised you. Got to see you happy before the end. That's more than many people get. Don't talk like that, Henley interjected, surprising everyone. You're not giving up. We're not giving up. I'll get tested as a donor. Yoonghwa blinked. You do that? After how I treated you initially. You're my mother-in-law and Sohi's grandmother. Family helps family. Henley's tone left no room for argument. Besides, you've grown on me. Somebody needs to keep Juho humble, and I can't do it alone. Against all odds, Henley was a match. Not perfect, but viable. The doctors were cautiously optimistic about the transplant surgery if they moved quickly. I can't ask you to do this, Yoonghwa said, but her eyes were hopeful. You're not asking, I'm offering, Henley replied. Although I expect you to be significantly nicer to me during recovery. I'm donating a piece of my liver here. The least you can do is stop making comments about my kimchi technique. Yoonghwa actually laughed, then started crying, and the two women hugged, a sight Juho never expected to witness. The surgery happened 2 weeks later. Juho spent 10 hours pacing hospital corridors, so he curled up in a waiting room chair, both of them terrified and hopeful. When the surgeon finally emerged, smiling, Juho nearly collapsed with relief. Both patients came through beautifully. It'll be a long recovery, but the transplant looks successful. Henley recovered faster than Yoonghwa, insisting on checking on her mother-in-law constantly despite the doctor's protests. By the time they were both discharged, Yoonghwa had completely abandoned her reservations about her son's choice of wife. You saved my life, Yoonghwa said simply during one of Henley's visits to the recovery facility. Your family, Henley replied, adjusting Yoonghwa's pillows. That's what family does. I was wrong about you from the beginning. You're not some nobody with nothing to offer. You're extraordinary. I'm really not. I'm just someone who loves your son and granddaughter, and by extension you. Nothing extraordinary about that. Yoonghwa took Henley's hand. Promise me something? Anything. When I'm gone, eventually, not now, but someday, take care of him. Juho acts strong, but he feels everything deeply. He needs someone who understands that, who won't let him retreat into himself. I promise, Henley said, squeezing back. But you're not going anywhere for a long time. I didn't donate part of my liver just for you to give up easily.
Deal.
Recovery took months, but Yoonghwa emerged healthier than she'd been in years. She started spending more time with Sohi, teaching her about the family business, the legitimate parts, at least, and sharing stories about Juho's childhood. Did you know your dad once tried to run away to become a musician? Yoonghwa told Sohi one afternoon while Henley and Juho eavesdropped from the kitchen. A musician? Sohi's delighted shriek carried clearly. Dad can barely carry a tune. Exactly why I stopped that plan very quickly, Yoonghwa confirmed. But he was 12 and convinced he was going to be a famous rapper. Even wrote terrible songs. I need to hear these songs, Sohi demanded. I burned all the evidence, Juho called out, making them laugh. In the kitchen, Henley wrapped her arms around her husband. Your mom's doing really well. The doctors say her prognosis is excellent. Thanks to you. Juho turned, cupping her face. I don't say it enough, but you're the best thing that ever happened to me. To us. You say it plenty, she assured him. Through actions even more than words. The way you reorganized your business operations to be safer, the way you involve me in decisions, the way you love Sohi and make sure she knows she's wanted. You say, I love you in 100 different ways every day. I do love you. Desperately. Forever. Forever sounds perfect. They kissed, soft and sweet, a familiar comfort after 2 years of marriage. Gross. Sohi yelled from the living room. Grandma, they're being romantic again. Let them be happy. Yoonghwa called back. I suffered through loveless marriage for 20 years before your grandfather passed. Your father deserves better. Juho pulled back, grinning at Henley. Did my mother just defend our marriage? And share personal information? Miracles happen, Henley said. Especially when people choose to grow and change. That evening, after Sohi was asleep and Yoonghwa had returned to her own home, Juho and Henley sat on their balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering lights. Remember when we met? Henley asked, her head on his shoulder. When you were just this mysterious dad lurking in hallways and I was just a janitor trying to do the right thing? I thought you were the most beautiful person I'd ever seen, Juho admitted. The way you stood up to those boys without hesitation, the way you treated Sohi like she mattered. I fell a little bit in love right then. Just a little bit? Okay, maybe more than a little. You terrified me, honestly. All that goodness, that genuine kindness, it was everything I'd convinced myself didn't exist in the world anymore. Henley turned to look at him. And now I know it exists because I get to live with it every day. You make me want to be better, Henley. Not perfect, not some saint, just better than I was yesterday. You're already pretty amazing, she said softly. Complicated and occasionally frustrating, but amazing. Occasionally frustrating? Frequently frustrating, she corrected with a smile. But I love you anyway. Actually, I love you because you're complicated and frustrating and real. You're human, Juho. Imperfect and trying and sometimes failing but always trying again. That's what I fell in love with. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city, thinking about the journey that had brought them here, from that first intervention in an academy hallway to this moment, this life, this family they'd built from unexpected pieces. What would you have done if I'd said no to the proposal? Henley asked suddenly. Probably spiraled into existential crisis, reorganized my entire life, learned better proposal techniques, and tried again. Juho answered honestly. I'm persistent when something matters. Good thing I said yes then. Saved you all that trouble. Best decision you ever made. Second best, Henley corrected. Best was choosing to help a struggling kid and her lurking father in that hallway. Everything good came from that choice. Everything good came from you, Juho insisted. Your kindness, your courage, your willingness to see past surfaces to what matters underneath. You saved us, Henley. Saved me from becoming someone I'd hate. Saved Sohi from loneliness. Saved my mother from her own stubbornness. You're the hero in this story. There are no heroes, just people trying their best and getting lucky sometimes. But she was smiling, pleased. Although if we're assigning roles, you're definitely the reformed bad boy making good. Reformed is generous. I'm still pretty morally gray in some areas. But less gray than you were and trending toward lighter shades. That's growth, husband of mine. They stayed on the balcony until the temperature dropped and Henley started shivering. Inside, their home was warm and welcoming. Sohi's artwork on the walls, photos from 2 continents, evidence of lives blended and love shared. Henley paused in the hallway, looking at their family portrait from the Benin wedding. We look happy. We are happy, Juho corrected, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Yeah, we really are. She leaned back into him. Think it'll last? This happiness. Life's unpredictable. We'll face challenges, problems, difficult times. But yes, I think our happiness will last because we choose it. Every day we choose each other, choose this family, choose to work through whatever comes. He kissed the top of her head. That's what forever means, right? Continuously choosing the same person over and over. Look at you being all philosophical and romantic, Henley teased. Marriage has made you soft. Marriage has made me complete, he corrected. There's a difference. They went to bed that night tangled together, comfortable and content, secure in the knowledge that whatever tomorrow brought, they'd face it together. In the guest room down the hall, Sohi slept peacefully, surrounded by stuffed animals from 2 continents, dreaming of mathematics and music and the family who loved her unconditionally. And somewhere across Seoul, Yoonghwa sat in her own home, looking at photos of her son's blended family, grateful for the second chance at life and relationship that Henley's sacrifice had given her. 3 people from different worlds, brought together by chance and kindness, choosing every day to be family despite complications and differences. It wasn't a fairy tale ending because the story wasn't ending. It was just the beginning of their forever, messy and complicated and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Juho had started as a man watching his daughter suffer, feeling powerless and alone. He'd thought that hiring Henley would solve a problem, make Sohi's life easier. What he'd found instead was so much more, a partner, a love, a future he'd stopped believing possible. And it all began because a woman in a janitor's uniform saw a child in distress and chose kindness over convenience, courage over indifference, love over fear. Sometimes the best things in life come from the simplest choices, like stopping to help a kid gather scattered books, like accepting an awkward coffee invitation, like saying yes to complicated love when it finds you in unexpected places. And there you have it, probably the strangest romance Seoul had ever witnessed, and definitely the best thing that ever happened to three people who desperately needed each other. Want more stories like this? Let me know in the comments, and maybe share your own unexpected love story while you're at it. See you in my next one.